The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's a pleasure to have you join us today. Today, the topic is the cost estimating gap every government contractor has today. It's really a fantastic topic for all of you that are joining us and looking at, is there a gap that I have in my processes in my company today? And if so, how significant is that gap for us? So today, my name is Robert Chakowski. I have been a CEO for technology companies in Silicon Valley, and I'm going to be your facilitator today. And Tom Shanahan is the CEO for ProdStream, and Tom is going to be our featured speaker for today. So welcome, Tom.
Hi, Bob. Good morning.
So let me share a little bit of background about Tom. Tom has over 2 decades of extensive experience in cost estimating, project management, bid and proposal development, strategic planning, software application development, and he has deep industry knowledge and experience. Tom started out in the Navy and nuclear engineering, and after that he progressed to work at DRS, and he was a program manager there. And when he was a program manager at DRS, he saw a lot of things that were being done manually, a lot of things that were being done inefficiently, a lot of things that were being done suboptimal, especially when it comes to cost estimating and the whole entire cost estimating to project management process that we're going to talk about today. So it's great to have his perspective, but more importantly, that was the genesis for Tom to be the founder and the CEO for ProdStream, because Tom's really passionate with his career about enhancing the precision and reliability of cost estimates for government contractors, and other industries like yours. So he has a deep passion, a deep interest, and a deep ability to collaborate with his customers. Those customers will include, do include people like Bechtel, as an example, and SW Research, to name a few. And so he has a tremendous amount of practical experience, but most importantly, he understands the issues and the gaps that you may have that are slowing down what's happening at your company today, slowing down your ability to win bids, slowing down your ability to have better profitability. And so with that, let's get started. Here's our agenda for today. Just to give you context and to set the stage, what we'd like to do is kind of review the goals, processes, and systems in use by just about every government contractor out there today. It sets a stage as far as what's in place and what's not. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what's missing. If you have these processes and systems in place, what's missing that could be tremendously improved that would make a difference in your operations and your success. So we're going to talk about the gap. Where is the gap and why is it important? And we're going to introduce a better way to address the gap. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, it's great to find a gap, but then what you have to look at is where's the value? Where's the return on investment? And as you think about this webinar today, and groundbreaking as it is, thinking about what are the next steps that you can take from today's webinar. So that's really our agenda that we're going to have for today. Okay, Tom, so if you could just take a few moments and welcome our audience, I appreciate that.
Yeah, hi everyone, good morning. So this is really a welcome, and the intent is to take you through what our intention is here today. And that's, like as Bob said, to look at the gap, really to think about what data you're gathering now and how can we get better access to that data to help you create and win bids with greater efficiency and accuracy is really the objective of today.
Well, thanks, Tom. What we'd like to do next is just kind of level set and say, in the end, when we're talking about these processes, what's the goal that a government contractor truly has at a strategic level?
Yeah, so really the goal every government contractor has is business oriented, right? We want to win more contracts and get more margin on those contracts, especially in a fixed price area. And you know, having better ideas of what your estimates are or should be is going to definitely help us there. But one thing a lot of companies or people don't think about as much as maybe they should is really building that strong client relationship based on that credibility, because now you have, more confidence in what maybe your estimate should be, or closer in the range of what it takes to perform that work. So that's really what I think the goals are and some of the underlying goals that companies may not think about as prevalently as maybe they should.
That's good. Let's talk a little bit, if we could, Tom, about the typical process that a government contractor has from start to finish. So then we can start to identify where there may be gaps that are less than optimal.
Yeah, absolutely. So high level, this is really the process that every major contractor is going to go through, in that, first you're going to go out and look at what business you want to go after, right? And it's, you really get down to strategically, do I go after this or not? So that's what business development is doing. And then once you decide you're going to do that, then you have to start doing your cost estimation. And in the strategic pricing, you're looking at your competition and saying, marrying that up with a bottoms up estimate, as well as the strategy, where do we want to come in at in relation to our competition? And then focus on, how much B&P costs are there. We want to do that efficiently. We want to know we're in the game. We want to be efficient in knowing, what our estimates are. So ideally, you're going in that direction. And ultimately, you need that strong project management focus to go deliver that in what you said you were going to do. So that's really the high level process in how we go about this.
So today, Tom, most of the time we're going to focus on the first area. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So if we look at this cost estimation area and we look at the topography of systems and processes that companies have in place today, what does that typically look like?
So mostly what we see is really, believe it or not, predominantly Excel in most areas, especially in the area of cost estimation, right? And then we have some third-party COTS tools, and they definitely have their advantages as depicted here. So for example, SEER and True Planning really tend to focus on third-party data and benchmarking that data on what things should cost, hardware and software. They tend to focus on, large contractors, and most think of that as like black box type data. So they really have their strength in like the should cost area. And then you have ProPricer. So a lot of these, down on the bottom there, you see the attributes where the strengths are and maybe some of the weaknesses. But so ProPricer really tends to focus on the price side of things and the pricing models. And that robustness really is, how much versatility is there across various industries and sectors. So you can see maybe SEER and True Planning might have, mid-range focus. They really tend to focus more on the government, aerospace, and defense. ProPricer is a little bit more broad as far as that, how we're defining robustness. But ultimately, the Excel models and ProPricer don't really tend to focus too heavily on actually what drives the estimate and really the pricing, right, which are the cost estimates. So that's really the current topography of what we see today, Bob.
Okay. Well, Tom, given that backdrop and given where the gap is, let's talk a little bit about your solutions, and then we'll talk about how that fits into the existing infrastructure that everybody has.
Yeah, absolutely. So our platform, so this is really an ecosystem of our platform. So we have BOE Max, Max Team, and Workbench are the primary applications, right? So if I look at this on the left-hand side, BOE Max is really the focus of the cost estimates and also the output pricing, right? And then I have Max Team, which is the execution application. So think of setting your baseline, managing ETCs, getting earned value, and forecasting. But within that ecosystem, we've designed this to be closed loop. And really, like, one of the mainstays of the application has really become, and we'll talk about this further later, is Workbench, which is the easy to use web application really for the SMEs, right? You can think of some of those other cost tools that really kind of focus on the super user, the cost analyst, the pricers, et cetera. Workbench is really designed for that subject matter expert, that knowledge worker, the engineer, to have access to the information with a low learning curve. So the important, if you're going to take anything away from this slide, it would be that all these applications interact. So think of a project lifecycle. As I estimate, I go through the estimation, I go and deliver, but then I have a closed loop system to go and learn and continually learn and iterate from that process.
Hard to do, Tom, if you're doing everything on Excel spreadsheets, right?
Absolutely correct.
So now let's take ProdStream and look at the topography once more. One of the challenges I think most people have when they think about a better way to do things, a better process, better tools, better approach, or best practices, is number one is to make sure it fits in with the topography and the systems that they have in place today because they don't want the disruption. And number two is that it replaces something that absolutely should be replaced. So again, just looking at the topography that you went over here today, let's add BOA Max. And could you share with our audience a little bit about where this fits in?
Yeah, so the intent really about BOE Max is that upfront cost estimating, where really our strength of focus is on your internal historical data. So, you know, when you look at our topography of our application suite, we're really focusing on that closed loop data, meaning we're doing the estimating, we're generating baselines, we're gathering the data. So the importance here is we're leveraging your internal data for those cost estimating information relationships. So we've, you know, from the start or inception of the company, we've really focused on that as our strength of platform, is that internal data and feedback on the cost estimating side of things. And then, you know, another key area, which we'll talk about a little bit too, is our setup on technology and platforms. And the way we're setting up our data with this complete architecture and having the AI vision for that technology platform, the point here is we're scaled for future use and growth. So that's really, I think we're a differentiator primarily on that. When I say data, it's not, you know, it's for the purpose of being bigger than just data and being able to internally use your data and use it as a driver and decision-making process.
So Tom, when you go in and we work with a company and you help them replace Excel with your solutions and really significantly jumpstart the integration and productivity, what are some of the issues or benefits that come into play here?
Yeah, so this is a chart looking at Excel versus BOE Max and Workbench. So really some of the issues are, you know, Excel is great because it's low cost and you can set things up quickly. The problem with it, it's not collaborative. It doesn't have a central database. Everybody can get access to it. So there's some security risk associated with that, and error prone because it's so open and there's no real configuration control. So the point here is, you know, it's something that's set up in the beginning, it's easy to use, and it serves a purpose because it's something you can plug in right away and just get stuff done, right? But there's a reason why people call us, and a lot of these attributes you see here in our ranking compared to Excel is really the, you know, the reason why folks are calling us. And we just went through an implementation with a really large government contractor where we replaced Excel, and you know, they're really excited about not just being able to retrieve some of that data for knowledge and reuse and real learning, but also onboarding with standardizing some of their processes and being able to just, you know, progress in sort of that, how do we get better concept and not just answer the mail. So that's really where the excitement came from, and they continue to, you know, have gains in efficiencies and productivity based on that implementation.
And Tom, it looks like in talking with a number of executives across some of the government contractors you work with, a lot of those executives are concerned that with Excel, they have no ability to leverage best practices, share knowledge across their teams. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Is that typically the case?
Yeah, it becomes really hard. There's always a desire to do that, but not having a central way to manage processes with templates and a guided approach and a repeat way, because you have these, you know, ad hoc spreadsheets. It becomes, the desire is there. There are some things that are put in place, but without a centralized standard application that you can really set your framework around and processes around for repeatability, it becomes challenging. There are attempts where their legacy systems kind of put in place and VB added to Excel, but Excel is just never meant for the strength of business application, and really setting up for that architecture that and some of the technologies we have in place today to really take advantage of what's possible and where we're headed in the future.
That probably sets up our next discussion here, Tom, then talking a little bit about what's the prioritization for the audience that's here today in terms of what's missing, and how would the audience prioritize some of the key things that they're looking for?
Yeah, this is just based on some of our research with prospects and clients that, you know, we sent out a survey and said, you know, what is missing? So this is the top rankings. Now, I'm going to not talk to every one of these, but some of these tie in. So, for example, integration with financial systems and the lack thereof, really, that can drive, you know, the third thing on the chart, which is access to your historical data to drive your internal cost estimating relationships, right? So that becomes really important because, you know, that data typically exists because you have your financial system set up in every major government contractor, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't pass audits. But that accessibility to that data really is lacking. Like, it's there, but it's like the hunt and peck method, or send me this file, that kind of really dispersed area. And that ties into the first item, which is really user friendliness, and the interface really goes deeper than that into a level of access to the source data, right? So it's not only the ease of use in the interface, but it's set it up for me so I can easily use it, but also give me access to that data-rich environment where I can go gain the knowledge of what I did in the past to leverage that to get better, right? Or have some way to angle towards what is a better estimate based on what I've done before, or what, you know, give me a better definition of scope, statement of work, or basis of estimate justification based on real learning. So everything becomes about the data, being able to have access to that data. And so one of the major items too here is, you know, we'll talk about this a little bit further, is setting up for the platform of AI and machine learning without gathering the right data. So AI is all about the data. If I have data and it's good data and I have a lot of data, I'm set up for that environment so that I can continue to learn based on some of the advanced technologies we have out there today. So these are some of the key things that we're really missing in COTS, cost estimating tools.
It's good. Let's move to the next area here, Tom, and talk about what is the better way, and how do you benefit through a better way with better results?
Yeah, so there's a lot of bullets on this slide here, but like, if I think about the inception of the company, we really were after how do we get government contractors to progress in a way that they can continue to learn from what they do? So in other words, the very initial thought was, how do we build better baselines to gain customer confidence, win more bids, and increase our margins, right? So that's why you see up on the top there, ProdStream closed loop system. we intentionally set out with two major applications, Max Team and VOE Max, to capture historical actuals, leverage that, and give it directly into the hands of the subject matter experts so that they can go look at that data. You still need the humans, right? Access that data, do analysis on it, leverage that, and reuse it, and continue to learn from that based on repeat deliveries of something that you do all the time. So, other areas, way for better results, and I mentioned this before, is standardized processes. Like, how are you going to standardize on process if you're passing around spreadsheets? It's not that you can't do it, it becomes really difficult. So process, it's hard when I get a new prospect and they think of tool and process as independent. They're really not independent. They're directly intertwined. So think of that. One can leverage another and boost another. So there are feature functions and process mapping that can really help you gain strength in your delivery. And having that closed loop system around better processes driven by a strong framework is really what gets you to the next level. But it has to be easy to use. In other words, low learning curve, but give me access to that data rich environment for that repeatability. So that, some of the results there are higher profitability, improve win rates, and really, enhance customer credibility.
That's great, Tom. Now let's talk a little bit about how you're bridging the gaps, because the rollout and involving more contributors in this type of environment is an area where ProdStream shines. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so really ProdStream bridges the gap primarily, like if you had seen that earlier slide with Excel and all those white areas, that's really where ProdStream gets plugged in, right? Is in the area of Excel or some of the other COTS tools that just don't meet the cost estimating that you really need as far as, setting up for ease of use, input, access to the data rich environment, and really that learning on, what we had done before, both language and data, statistics, predictive analytics. That's the whole idea, right? As we get more data, we're able to leverage it, look at it, make use of it, analyze it, learn from it, and continue to gain strength in that environment. So that's really where ProdStream bridges the gap. We're really set up for going to that next level, taking advantage of some of the technology. But like as that first bullet points out, you have to have an intuitive design so that you increase adoption, right? How do I use this in context, in the right area through the estimating process to take advantage of that data rich environment in a way that isn't overly complex? I need to be easily, so that's the thing we see is the biggest hurdle is the adoption, right? Because if you're not getting the adoption, what use is the tool? So you need to have that set up. So we spend a lot of time in our interface environment with Workbench, making it extremely easy to use, doing surveys, getting feedback, continuing to learn. And as we roll out AI, that's helping us even further, getting feedback in certain areas, getting the right answers. And we're always about continuous improvement on that interface.
And to that point, Tom, let's talk a little bit about AI, because every company wants to know what a company like yours is doing with AI, how you're integrating it. Is it in the works? Is it vision? Is it on the roadmap? Maybe give the audience some viewpoint where you're at with the integration of AI.
Yeah, so we're really charged up about AI. We're already heavily in process with AI. I can talk about our roadmap. We have two major, there's a lot of bullets on here, but we have two major components to our roadmap. One is the NLP area, and the other one is the machine learning. And we're already pretty advanced on the natural language processing part of things in that we're able to leverage ChatGPT. Everything is in Azure, right? Like most of our customers are on Azure, the data lakes, and being able to take advantage of that data. But we're really looking at two ways of, if you think about NLP, two major contexts that we're working on actively currently is a guided contextual approach So in other words, if I'm in a WBS area, like how do I use a WBS? How do I get a document and break out a WBS? How do I get into the tool? How does it work in ProdStream? That's a contextual application. And then we're also looking at repeatability in language and estimates. So maybe directly around BOEs, think of repeatability, right? Or going out and looking for data that I have on prior BOE justifications and or types of work and saying, give me some recommendations based on, this fuse design, for example. And it'll go out and look and tell you what maybe some of the resources were, maybe the complexity of the task, what a prior BOE justification was, give you recommendations based on what you had done. So that's the other contextual piece. And then ultimately, we're not there yet, but we're predicting, Q4 this year, we're going to get heavily into the machine learning where we have, really the statistical data of what were the estimates, how do I statistically look at this data, and where we're going to be focusing on that machine learning is in the areas of, there are a couple major models that we're looking at, i.e. regression, linear, nonlinear regression, decision trees, random forest where it's taking multiple decision trees, and continuing to refine and look at multiple models to really hone in. And like the major idea here is definitely not to replace the cost estimator or the cost analyst, but strengthen their job to maybe give them maybe some patterns that maybe they hadn't thought of or seen in their own analysis, because we have the strength of some of these business tools through machine learning that we can put in the hands of that estimator. So I see it as maybe not certainly not replacing that cost estimator, but making their job really stronger.
Tom, that's a great to cover the roadmap. Let's talk a little bit about where the value is, or as we say, where the beef is with ProdStream.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think really where the value is getting better at replacing what you've had in Excel to leverage your data, have that central database where you're really learning based on what you had done before and your performance prior, and really making sense of that. So it's, not just looking at, oh, hey, what did I do with this project, but taking that data, aggregating it, making sense of it in a highly organized fashion to give you back quick answers, because not everybody's a cost estimator, right? So we really see the value in rolling this out to your knowledge workers to give them better ideas of what an estimate range should be based on real data-driven, enriched areas that maybe helps them be almost like a cost estimator without having to have the knowledge of what regression is, for example. So it's putting the data in the hands of those SMEs and really getting that value, based on those sort of platforms. And user friendliness, I can't harp on that enough, how you really need to, help increase adoption by just making that onboarding much more easier to use.
So Tom, one of the hurdles that most people have, maybe even the folks that we have here today joining us on the webinar, is how do they put together a cost justification for an investment like this? Because every big company, every government contractor typically has that capital appropriation request or operating request for more budget dollars to do something. And that really hinges on where's the ROI. Give us a sense in terms of how you actually help hone in on ROI and the business case.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you an example of one we had recently done with a space exploration company, and that they wanted to go through an ROI analysis. So we did that in two legs, right? We went through the business case first, and that's really the qualitative areas that show benefit. And then we got into the ROI. What are the numbers? And it's really not geared toward us doing it. It's helping to guide that process through both of those applications. So we take you through a workshop. It takes typically about a week for both the business case and the ROI analysis. So it's really your answers based on that workshop. And what we typically see is somewhere between 5 to 7 months. Specifically for this contractor, it was 5 months payback, return on investment, and annually saving somewhere between 1.4 and 1.6 million dollars annually, and that's even given the implementation costs. So really, those are real world examples. That's pretty typical of pretty quick payback because of that lightweight rollout, getting the workbench application in the hands of your people that know the work, people that know the scope. They're the ones that should be doing the estimating. A lot of times there's that bridging the gap between the engineers and the cost estimators, but that's not always feasible. So you really need to get that information in the hands of people that actually know, the engineers that are going to be delivering the work.
That's good. And why don't you if you could just recap a little bit how ProduStream could fit into your environment today, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah. So ProduStream can fit into your environment now. We really think of ourselves as, being that data-rich environment and being able to plug in right away to where you might have Excel or a legacy system sitting there. And really, we've become masters at integrating your data, right? So think of your other business systems, financial, material data. Everybody needs to deliver projects. Your cost estimating system is not a pricing system. It really becomes your central nervous system for everything. It's kind of like the brain, right? That's the very first inception of things. Your cost estimates. Pricing is just an output. How do I improve baselines? It comes from better cost estimating. So that's really where we fit in. That's where we plug in. We're technology advanced. So, integrating data. I don't like the word integrating, but combining data in a meaningful way to make use of that environment, feeding it back, putting it into the hands of your knowledge workers to give you strength is really where we fit in. So the main point here is we can plug in right away to where, most of you are on the environment here today because there's probably pain right in this area. And you may have never thought about it this way, but really the cost estimating area and improving and continuous improvement in what I'm delivering here really becomes the central nervous system because and that's why integration and tying in other systems is key between your schedules, your MRP, your ERP. Be able to leverage and learn from that continuously is how ProduStream can help get you started immediately.
That's great. Tom, let's if we could open it up for the audience and let's get some questions here for you. And let me go ahead and please, if you have a question for Tom, please go ahead and post it, and we'll make sure that we can get that addressed. If by the way we have too many questions for the time limit that we have here, we'll make sure that we get back with you one-on-one to address those questions. So let's step into this. This is the first question, Tom. What specific features or capabilities would you find most valuable in a cost estimation or PM2?
I would really say the main feature is having that learning environment where I can go and recall historical data in a way that's meaningful to me and broadly distributed to everybody that has to do estimates and look at that statement of work, map that to a requirement and say, go, what is my estimate? The old days, it's, I got about 2 people for 3 months or whatever. But, if I have a data rich environment and tells me I've delivered this thing 5 times before, and now I can go look at that data and run analytics on it. Now I have real data behind it. That helps me build my credibility with my customer and just continuous improvement, right? So that's probably the main feature. The other features would be, just having that version control, what if, and traceability that's necessary. Really the configuration, and also, you want to think about how do I improve my process, and having a platform that's easy to use, but helps guide me and frame my steps in my process to meet, my estimating system business case.
Okay, that's great. Tom, here's the next second question. What are the biggest pain points when collaborating with team members on cost estimates and proposals?
I would say some of the biggest pain points are knowing what the data is, sharing the data, collaborating on, first of all, who's doing the estimate, and having that knowledge in a central platform to go and continuously learn from. So some of the biggest pain points are really, I keep harping on the data, having access to the data. So that's a big pain point. The other really big pain point why people call us is, just having that gap in being able to go through and adopt a tool. So some of those COTS tools are just kind of lacking in that user-friendly interface, or maybe something isn't built for the masses to go and estimate. So those are probably the key pain points are data access, and really that adoption driven by, first of all, ease of use, and then access to really give me the data that I need. Don't just give me data. I need, data now in the hands of the people that need it.
And Tom, here's our next question. It's about traceability, and wanted to find out how does your company's solution improve traceability over what we currently have?
Yeah, so I can think of 3 areas, I guess, where traceability applies in our system. So first off, there's a log that you can turn on since inception of the start of the estimates, right? And that just keeps the puts and takes of all the estimates, who does what, who added scope, who added hours, who took away hours at what time. So that's very transactional, but becomes useful when you're trying to track who did what over the entire length of time. And then also we have version control. So think of your customer says, I have module XYZ and now I need to add module A. How do we do that? I can take a snapshot version right at that point, add it, and then compare version to version based on that reporting, and have that, step by step. What are the iterations we went through with our customer or internally? Some examples might be, make buy, I needed to outsource this. What was the cost difference, or needed to modify the rate? So that's the other traceability angle. The third angle really is your cost and pricing output, right? So this is looking at high level, what are my highest level elements of cost down to the most detailed traceable element that our contractor or customer is asking for, and everything ticks and ties with those in-cell cost formulas that show cost and pricing traceability from the highest level of the project down to the most detailed. Everything needs to tie out through that reporting. So that's the third criteria.
Here's a question, Tom, and it says from a ERP and also for ProPricer, does ProdStream integrate with both of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned in one of the slides, we're always integrating with, really different ERP systems. So SAP, Oracle, CostPoint. It really doesn't matter. We have a technology that rapidly, once we define what fields we're mapping to, can do that pretty quickly. And also it's pretty standard. We have integrated with ProPricer. That's pretty straightforward as well. So it's not uncommon that ProPricer customers are coming to us because the government is used to, sometimes those pricing models, but they don't have the strength in their cost estimating platform. So we do that data handshake all the time.
Okay, good. Thank you, Tim, for that question. Great question. Appreciate that. So, Tom, good questions from the audience here. Why don't we talk a little bit about how would somebody get started with ProdStream? What would be, from today's webinar and so forth, what would be some meaningful next steps that would make sense for people?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the most common ways to get started, and something that's been extremely successful with a lot of clients, is the Quick Start program. So as you can see, it's 60 days or less. We really try to define, what are the major use cases you're looking for, help you configure the application, and do major blocking and tackling so you can get, some return on investment right away. So that's been really successful because, it's such a short time frame, and it's, I'm not going to lie, it's intensive. We ask for a lot, so that, that collaboration really helps us deliver a lot in that short period of time. The other ways are really, it depends on what, sometimes somebody's not ready yet to go and do that, and they want to see, help me see a standard demo. So that's just kind of generic data, maybe in a specific use case for what I'm doing, but I'm maybe looking at demo data. So we're, product demo is a way to onboard. And then something that's become more common is looking at a customized and data focused demo. Hey, we have our data. Our data is different from everybody else's data, right? So we have that experience where maybe it's a little bit longer than just a traditional product demo, but we can help, configure your system and show you your data in a way that makes more sense for you, maybe in a meaningful and relevant way, because this is the way you're used to seeing things. So 3 major ways that we've onboarded. People really like the Quick Start program, I would say, because it, minimizes the risk. There's not a huge upfront investment, because you don't necessarily have to buy the software right away, but you can prove that use case in a very short period of time.
That's great. Got some good options here for the audience. And I think the Quick Start program you found to be a home run for everybody that is looking at. They want to see the benefit, but they also want to eliminate risk. So it's a great collaborative approach.
Yeah, I would say if you're on the hot seat, that's really a good angle to kind of get your boss off your back pretty quick.
Exactly. And Tom, so if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to contact you, or you to contact them? How would that work?
So contact me directly. There's my phone number, or if you like the other approach, certainly go to the website. You can peruse our products, our offers, and you can always request a demo directly on the website, submit the form. We'll set that up. Typically, we go through a discovery call just to, understand your environment more and go from there. But yeah, certainly you can email me as well. So there's my information. Please take note of it, and would be very excited to get started.
That's great. I hope everybody today in our audience really enjoyed today's webinar on the cost estimating gap for every government contractor. And Tom, thank you very much for being our featured speaker today. So on behalf of myself, Tom, and the entire ProdStream team, I'd like to thank everybody that joined us today's webinar, and we look forward to working with you. So have a great day.